If you appreciate our content, please click the thumbs up button and subscribe to our channel. That will really help us to reach more people. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center. Today is the sound of music. So I invite you all to stand up, and we're going to sing the theme song from the Sound of Music. I hope everybody remembers it. And we have Bill Brooks today as our soloist. You'll hear some great songs from him later. Here we go. The hills are alive with the sound of music, with songs they have sung for 1,000 years. The hills fill my heart with the sound of music. My heart wants to sing every song with you. My heart wants to beat like the wings of the birds that rise from the lakes to the trees. My heart wants to sigh like a chime that flies from a church on a breeze, to laugh like a brook when it trips and falls over stones on its way, to sing through the night like a lark who is learning to pray. I go to the hills when my heart is lonely. I know I will hear what I heard before. My heart will be blessed with the sound of music, and I'll sing once more. All right, very nice. You can have a seat. Thank you.
Good morning, Unity. Help me to welcome Reverend Gordon Keyler.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Roland. Oh, as we were singing that, I was thinking about our hike yesterday, and the song we were singing was, "Oh God, it's hot." But we all survived, and that's always a good thing, and we're here today with our power of will. How many of you know what the power of will is? Well, good, you're in the right place, because we're going to learn about it today. I just want to say welcome, and is there anybody here for the very first time? Yes, welcome. We are glad you were here with us. And yes. And we want you to know that we see you. We see your hopes, your dreams, your struggles, and we see your light. And we are here to provide a safe place for you to grow spiritually. And that's whatever brought you here today. Whether you are seeking community, healing, enlightenment, growth, spiritual growth, you will find it here. And we are not concerned about the color of your skin, for all colors are on the spectrum of light. We are not concerned about who you love. We rejoice that you love, because the world certainly needs more love today. And we are not concerned about where you came from, because when you are here, you are home. So welcome home. And now let's check in with our social media check-in, aligning with the Christ consciousness. And once you have done that, please put your phones on Do Not Disturb. And you know, one thing that really helps us, you see we have Facebook posts and all kinds of things like that during the week. We have the lesson up during the week. Share it with your friends. It helps get the word out that we are here, and people are looking for what we have to offer, I believe. So with that, I am going to turn the platform over to Michael, who will share some announcements with us.
Thank you, Gordon. Here's some announcements for August 18, 2024. The YOUers are having their ice cream social fundraiser today. I believe it's also non-dairy as well as dairy. So come and support your YOUers right after the service. Treat yourself to some ice cream. Definitely, it's a win-win. So there will be a love offering. Donations will go to the teens to send them to Unity Regional Rallies. Tapping for Health and Wellness with Chris Ackland today at 11:45 to 12:45. So after you get your ice cream, go see Chris. In classroom 4, there will be a love offering. This emotional freedom technique is EFT, is also known as tapping. It's a technique that has been around since 1995. Acupuncture points are tapped in a sequence to help release physical and emotional pain. The positive effects are quick and long-lasting. Healthy snacks for Ernie Pyle Middle School. Ernie Pyle is a middle school in the South Valley that we've partnered with for various projects. It is perfect for our Unity outreach in the community. This community has struggled with food insecurities. We have provided food boxes, and last year the Healthy Snacks programs was started. This year we would like to continue to stock Esther's Pantry at the school monthly with nutritional snacks. So please drop off your donations right here behind me, or just drop them off at the office. World Day of Prayer is September 12th. The prayer vigil will be noon to 5. There's also a prayer service that evening at 7 p.m. Candle lighters are needed for that evening. Sign-up sheets are in the lobby. Name the USC Band Contest. We all know what a terrific band USC has. They are amazing. What they don't have is a name. So think of a great name for the band and send it to the office. There's the email address. There will be a prize if you submit the winning entry. There are many activities and events happening at Unity Spiritual Center. We encourage you to check our website page, Facebook page, YouTube, online weekly newsletter, or call the office. We are happy to talk to you. All right, so here's our worship team. You've already met Reverend Gordon Keyler. Glenda Fagan is our trustee of the day. I am Michael Small. I am your platform host. Josie Godfrey and Martine Backman is our prayer chaplains, and you can find them on either side of the sanctuary. They would be happy to talk to you or pray with you. If you can't stay after the service, there are prayer slips in the back, and then there are drop-off boxes in the foyer. Todd Lowry is our music director. USC Band, along with Todd Lowry, is Brian Griesmeyer and Sharon Eldridge. Bill Brooks is our soloist today. Welcome back. And I want to say special thanks to our AVLM team, Austin, John, Ellen, and Elizabeth. That's it. Glenda, come on up.
Good morning, Unity. Please join me in reciting our vision. Centered in love, we see a harmonious world of divine expression. And our mission? We inspire spiritual growth through honoring many paths, education, prayer, sacred service, and abundant living. And our core values? We are Christ-centered, loving, inclusive, joyous, uplifting, open-minded, and fun. And the Unity Credo. We believe all people are created with sacred worth. We serve all people in emotional and spiritual ways. We welcome the diversity of all. God and unity leave no one out. And now it is the time when we collect offerings. There are a number of different ways to give. You can give in person now during the Sunday service. We have a Church Center app where you can do it electronically. You can also go online to the website at uscabq.org/give, or by phone, text to give, 84321. Ushers? And our offering blessing, divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive.
Here's a little jazzy version of a song from The Sound of Music. 1, 2, 3, 4,
And now our offering dedication, prosperity dedication. In a universe overflowing with the allness of God, all the needs and desires of Unity's spiritual center and those we serve are bountifully met. From every direction, known and unknown, expected and unexpected, our abundant good is here now. Thank you, God.
All right. It's time for a congregational song, and I guess because it's a Sound of Music, we're going to do Do, Re, Mi. So I invite you to stand and sing along. You probably don't need the words. Hopefully everybody knows this song. We'll do it a few times. And just have fun. Do, a deer, a female deer, Re, a drop of golden sun. Mi, a name I call myself, Fa, a long, long way to run. So, a needle pulling thread, La, a note to follow. So, Ti, a drink with jam and bread that will bring us back to Do, 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 Do. Do, a deer, a female deer, Re, a drop of golden sun. Mi, a name I call myself, Fa, a long, long way to run. So, a needle pulling thread, La, a note to follow. So, Ti, a drink with jam and bread that will bring us back to one more time. Let's do it one more time. Do, a deer, a female deer, Re, a drop of golden sun. a name I call myself. Far, a long, long way to run. So a little pulling thread, la, a note to follow. So, tea, a drink with jam and bread that will bring us back to do. Here we go. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, so, do. All right, good job. In this very room, there's quite enough love for one like me. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for one like me. And there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to chase away any gloom. For Spirit, God's Spirit, God's Spirit is in this very room.
And our word of the day today is will. Will. Willingly let the will of God have its perfect way in my life. God is good, and God's will for all God's children is good. When we know that God wills only good for us, we make an effort to understand and accept God's will. Because we want good in our life, we are willing to bring our will into accord with the divine will. We are willing to let God's will be done in all that concerns us. In time of great need, Jesus prayed, "Father, not my will, but thine be done." When we pray in this way, submitting our will to the divine will, we relinquish our problems and needs to God's keeping. And with implicit faith, we trust God to bless us in wise and perfect ways. Prayer does not change the will of God. Prayer changes us. There is no need to change that which is good. We only change our approach to the good. Prayer helps us bring our thoughts and feelings into accord with God's will, and we know God's ways are right. As we seek to follow this way, submitting our will to God's will, good changes take place in our life.
And as I move deeper into meditation, I feel an alignment, my spirit with the divine. I have will, and I can choose to use it to be willful or willing. I choose willingness. I think of the traditional Lord's Prayer. My Father, my source, which art in heaven, which is higher mind, divine mind. Hallowed be thy name. Sacred is that energy. Thy kingdom come, thy will is done. That kingdom of divine order, of perfect manifestation, allows the will of God to work through me. When I live in that kingdom, when my consciousness is anchored in the divine, I am willing. I am willing to let God be God as me. Willing to be filled with life and vim and vigor. Willing to be an expression of love and light. Willing to evolve, willing to grow, willing to live the life abundant. As I become willing, all of God's kingdom is at hand. My own personal consciousness gets out of the way, and I see the truth and the beauty and the perfection of the world I live in. And when things do not always look the way they should, I affirm, not my will, but thy will be done. Thy will. The will that looks upon imperfection and allows for the possibility of perfection. That looks upon lack and allows the potential of abundance. That looks upon fear and anger and allows the awareness of peace and love. Will is the power to move the other powers into expression. It is the willingness to be not merely aligned with the Christ, but to be the Christ consciousness expressing. It is the willingness to be more than I have been. For with God there is unlimited potential for all good. And here and now, I align myself with that consciousness, that Christ consciousness. I am willing, God. Willing to be you expressing as me. And in silent meditation, I am willing to be open to the will of the divine. I am willing. Willing to be all that I came here to be. Willing to shine my light. willing to live in alignment with Christ consciousness. Willing to remember that wherever I am, God is. Whatever may be going on around me, God is. And that no matter where I am, there's always quite enough love for all the world.
In this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to chase away any gloom. For Spirit, God's Spirit, God's Spirit is in this very room.
All right. Bill has a song from The Sound of Music.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. And this one's actually written by Richard Rodgers because Oscar Hammerstein, who wrote all the lyrics, had passed away by the time they did the movie, so they added another song. But it's called I Have Confidence.
What will this day be like? I wonder. What will my future be? I wonder. It could be so exciting to be out in the world, to be free. My heart should be wildly rejoicing. Oh, what's the matter with me? I've always longed for adventure, to do the things I never dared. Now here I'm facing adventure, then why am I so scared? A captain with 7 children. What's so fearsome about that? Oh, I must stop these doubts, all these worries. I don't know, I just know I'll turn back. I must dream of the things I am seeking. I am seeking the courage I lack. The courage to serve them with reliance. Face my mistakes without defiance. Show them that I'm worthy, and while I show them, I'll show me. So let them bring on all their problems. I'll do better than my best. I have confidence they'll put me to the test, but I'll make them see I have confidence in me. Somehow I will impress them. I will be firm but kind. And all those children, heaven bless them, they will look up to me and mind me. With each step I am more certain everything will turn out fine. I have confidence the world can all be mine. They'll have to agree I have confidence in me. I have confidence in sunshine. I have confidence in rain. I have confidence that spring will come again. Besides which you see, I have confidence in me. Strength doesn't lie in numbers. Strength doesn't lie in wealth. Strength lies in nights of peaceful slumbers. When you wake up, it's healthy. All I trust will lead my heart to. All I trust becomes my own. I have confidence in confidence alone. Oh, help. confidence alone. Besides what you see, I have confidence in me.
Bill Brooks, thank you, Bill.
All right, thank you, Bill. We always have confidence in you. And Brian and Sharon and Todd. Yes. Well, for those of you who are here for the first time or with us on Facebook for the first time, we are in the middle of our summer 12 Powers Reel-to-Reel series, where we are taking different popular movies and examining the powers that are represented in those movies. Now, they weren't written to represent those powers specifically, but we know that Spirit speaks to us in many, many ways. Some people say, well, the Bible is the only Word of God. No! Everything that has ever been written, everything that has ever been said comes from the mind of God, filtered through our human consciousness. And sometimes in movies and books and literature, poetry, you name it, songs, messages come to us. And so we've been learning about our 12 powers, which are 12 gifts that every human being has, regardless of religion. Every human being that has ever been and ever will be is born with these powers. And we believe in unity, and it is what Jesus taught and what others have taught, that when we can develop these powers in balance with each other, we become more effective. We become more Christ-like. That's what Jesus said. Do as I do. Follow me. Be like me. And that's what we are learning how to do. He was our way shower and our teacher. So if you're new, you may be wondering, what are those 12 powers? Well, they are faith, strength, love, wisdom, the power of power, imagination, understanding, will, order, enthusiasm, elimination, life. And so far we have done faith, which is the power to believe, love, which is the power to be loving, strength, which is the power to persevere, wisdom, the power to choose, power, the power to act, imagination, the power to see or visualize, and understanding is our ability to know and comprehend. Today we're going to look at the power of will. Will is understanding's partner. Will is represented by the disciple Matthew, and its color is silver or gray. But what's important is to know what it does, what it is. Will is our ability to choose, to decide, to know, to lead, and determine, based on our senses, our thoughts, our feelings, and beliefs. And will and understanding work hand in hand. We use will to make life-enhancing choices, or not. It works both ways. Reverend Paul Hasselbeck, in his book, Power Up, observed that underdeveloped will results in us being indecisive, wishy-washy, unable to make decisions, whereas on the other hand, overdeveloped will causes us to have a need to have everything our own way all the time. Boy, wouldn't that be nice if everything was our way all the time? Probably not. It causes us to exhibit a my way or the highway attitude. Overdeveloped will can also demonstrate a stubbornness or a difficulty with change. I know we all love change, don't we? It's just our favorite thing to do. And yet, the universe, life itself, is about change. Will allows us to be in alignment with that evolution, because that's what change is. It's evolution. If things aren't changing, you're not living to the fullest. Things should always be changing. Now, will allows us to work with change, to be in the process of change with grace and ease, rather than resisting it and fighting it or struggling with it. So another way to think of the power of will, it is the energy that moves all of the other powers into action. They're just there in potentiality until will is put into it, and will creates that emotion, that movement. The Reverend William Winifred Hausman taught us that, and I quote, "It is our job in developing our God-given potential to re-educate the will, the directing power of our mind, to teach will, to become receptive to spiritual motivation." This is why it's important to partner it with understanding, rather than to our outer goals determined by our materialistic desires and needs. Because one way or another, we are always using our will. Half the time, we're not even aware of it, but we are doing it. We choose a course of action. We resist or we resent. We submit or we fight back. We aim high or we slide backward. Or we are willing to consecrate and dedicate our will to Spirit, to God. That's when we come into alignment, and that is when will truly gets lifted up to that higher vibration, that higher energy. We look to Jesus as our way shower and teacher and how he used will. He used will in overcoming the human selfish motivation and allowing it to be replaced by oneness with God, by producing good for all. He was the prime example of the proper use of will. He even coined the phrase, not my will, but thy will be done. I will get out of the way and let divine will work through me and as me. And there's a lot of rewards that come with this when we are in that consciousness, in that space. They include health, happiness, joy, and peace, harmony and prosperity, and other good that we cannot even visualize in our present state of consciousness. We look around us quite often and we say, oh, if only there wasn't so much chaos in the world. Oh, if only there wasn't poverty, if there only wasn't violence, if there only wasn't, you name it. And we can use our willpower, our human egotistical willpower to change it. You will be perfect and whole. You will be like me. Or we can be willing. And willingness says, how can I be a force for change? How can I make a difference? What is my role in this? And that's one of the most important questions we can ask in life. What is my role in life? When we're complaining about what's going on, really we should be saying, what is my part in it? Am I a part of the problem or am I a part of the solution? Am I willing to be a part of that evolution, a part of that solution, a part of change? So how do we do it? Well, we start by first awakening to the possibility of will, by consciously watching the activities of will in our own consciousness and growing through spiritual understanding. When we're making a decision or when we're judging something outside of us, can we stop and say, whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute. What is the high expression of will in this? How will I change this? How will I be a part of this? How will I be the energy of the divine in action? So we work on developing the capacity to become willing, consciously consenting to the will of God. And instead of saying, I will, say, I am willing. I am willing. Those are three of the most powerful words we can speak. And when we really think about it, that is the theme of Mary Poppins. So that's next week. Of Sound of Music. That is the theme of the Sound of Music. The concept is the very heart of Maria and the story of the Von Trapp family as it follows their journey And Maria's journey from being a novice nun in the abbey to leaving and becoming the governess of the family, falling in love with the captain, and to their escape from the Nazis. And we see in this movie, how many of you have seen it recently? Is there anybody who's never seen it? Oh, a few people? Really? Oh my gosh. You got to watch it. It's based on a true story, and I'll get into some of that in a minute. But what we see in this from the very beginning, that Maria, Julie Andrews in the movie, has a very strong will. She definitely marches to the beat of a different drummer. She's late for everything except meals. She doesn't have her clothes right all the time. She gets the idea to go up and sing in the hills when she should be at the Abbey doing work. There was a song at the beginning of the movie that's, "How do you solve a problem like Maria?" How many of you remember that song? And all the nuns are saying, Mother Superior Maria, is just, she doesn't fit with us. She's a gadfly. And they sing this great song about, how do you solve a problem like Maria, as if she's a problem that needs to be solved. But even while they're singing it, if you watch closely, you'll notice that some of the things they're complaining about is kind of tongue-in-cheek almost, like, we kind of admire this about her. We kind of like this idea that she's a free spirit. We're genuinely fond of her because she is a very loving, caring person. And she has a life, a vitality, an energy that sometimes is a little much for the quietness and sacredness of the Abbey. So the Mother Superior says, maybe you need to go out in the world and see if this is really the life you want. Maybe God, and she says this, maybe God has a different path for you. Maybe your journey is somewhere else. Your gift is needed somewhere else. So she says, there's a family not far from here that lost their mother. There's 7 kids and the captain, the father, and they need a governess. So she goes out, and that's where the song I Am Confident comes in. And if you notice, it's all about being confident until she sees this big mansion. And she goes, oh my. We all have those times of doubt. But she then remembers, I am willing. I am willing to go where God sends me. And so she arrives, and she meets the captain and his children. And the captain is a submarine commander in the Austrian Navy. And it's at the very early days, right before World War II breaks out. And he's very regimented in the movie. And he has a whistle he blows. And when he blows the whistle, there's 7 different ways he blows the whistle, 1 for each kid. And they have to come up and march and stand at attention and all of this kind of stuff. And Maria is just kind of like, really? This is how you call your kids? And she says, I'm not going to whistle. And he's insisting that she does it, so she whistles for him. And he goes, nobody whistles for me. Oh, yeah? Illustrating the obvious point that no one should be summoned that way. Now, in reality, there was a reason why that happened. I'll share that with you in a minute. But Maria does not succumb to all of this, nor does she succumb to the mischievousness of the kids. They have chased away numerous governesses before her. And one of the first things that happens is she reaches into her pocket and there's a frog in her pocket. How did that get there? But she doesn't succumb to it. She sees the truth in front of her. She sees the truth of these children, and she even sees the truth of the captain. And so she does things like she wants, the children are wearing uniforms, and she says, no, they need play clothes. And she makes play clothes for them out of the drapes because he wouldn't buy her material. So the captain, in the meantime, has gone off to meet his girlfriend, and he brings her home. She's a baroness from Vienna. And when he comes back, Maria confronts him about his detachment from his children, about the lack of his involvement with the children. And he doesn't respond well, and he's ready to fire her. But then he hears something. Because while he was gone, Maria taught the children how to sing. That's where the song Do Re Mi came from. And she taught them how to make beautiful music. And she won their hearts over. And so when he's getting ready to fire her, he hears the children singing. And something shifts. Something shifts in him in that moment. And he opens up. He opens up to the beauty that is all around him all the time, to the love of his family, which is all around him all the time. And also, even though he's engaged to the Baroness, all of a sudden he sees Maria as a person. And something begins to shift in him. You see, Maria, had she gone in with her ultimate goal of forcing the family to be the way she thought they should be, rather than going in being willing to do the will of God. Even when she was being forceful and standing up to the captain, it was about what was best for them, not what was best for her. What is the principled thing to do? There's a very early scene where Maria has realized she's falling in love with the captain, but he's engaged. So she flees and goes back to the abbey. And she's talking to the mother and says, and the mother asks her, "What is the most important thing you have learned here at the abbey?" And Maria responds, "I have learned to do what is the will of God and to do it wholeheartedly." Now that sounds beautiful and devout, but what does it really mean? For centuries, humanity has tried to figure out what God's will is. You go to many churches and they will tell you, "This is God's will, do it." I promise you, God will never say, "You have to do this." God's will comes from within. The knowledge of God's will comes from within. And it's that voice that says, "This is what you are called to do. This is what is right. This is what is needed." You know, it requires a great deal of trust to be willing. I know there have been many times in my life when I've said, "God, give me a sign." Anybody ever been there? Do you really want me to do that? Give me a sign. And then after you've given me that sign, give me another sign further down that says, "It's all going to work out all right." Because oftentimes when we're willing to be in that place of change, that place of growth, a place of service, we don't know how it's going to turn out. At least I've had that experience. Have you? When you wonder, how can this possibly work out for good? Show me a sign that it's all going to happen. It's all going to work out. Everything will be okay. But what if no billboard shows up? I know most times there has not been a billboard. What if no billboard shows up and we have to kind of just trust? How do we know then what is the will of God? Well, what I'm coming to believe is when we can accept that our will is God's will and God's will is our will. When our will is grounded in spiritual understanding, when our will is based on our spiritual principles and is more interested in doing the right thing than being right, we will be in alignment with Christ consciousness. We will be aligned with our purpose, and we will be effective. Because in that moment, God's will and our will become the same thing. And we cannot help but do God's will when we consciously develop and practice and master these powers. Paul Hasselbeck, in his book on metaphysics, explained it this way. When we ask, "What is God's will for my life?" the very question implies that God has a specific will for us, a kind of divine plan or predetermination where God has already made all of the choices for our lives. But this kind of interpretation of God's will implies a separation, a sense of an anthropomorphic God out there micromanaging our lives. In actuality, the will of God is nonspecific for any of our lives and circumstances. He goes on to explain the divine plan is for each of us to make the very best choices, to express the maximum amount of goodness. For goodness and Christ consciousness are the ultimate goal. And at our present level of awareness, we do this by tapping into and using the power of will. He says at our highest level of present awareness, we use this. That's an important distinction. It isn't about shooting all over ourselves or shaming ourselves. It's about practice. It's about being as sincere in developing our powers. If we were all masters, there would be no reason to incarnate. We would have accomplished what this earth is about, what we came here to learn. This is a practice. We are here to develop these powers, to grow and to understand. Maya Angelou wrote, "When you know better, you do better." So we are in the process of knowing better, of learning, of growing. This gives a whole new meaning to free will, doesn't it? No? Yes? Are you awake? Okay. Torquem Saridarian wrote this: "It seems to me that the term free will is one of the most manipulative and exploited terms there is. The real real explanation of free will is not that you have free will, but your will make you free. That your will liberate you. That will can release you from slavery. Practicing the power of the will at its highest level frees us from the slavery of fear, of resentment, of competition, of lack, of unforgiveness." That's the free will we're talking about. That we have the free will to fully align ourselves with Christ's consciousness. And that's what Maria was doing in the movie. She had a very strong will, grounded in faith, grounded in love for the family and the children, and eventually love for the Father. And she had the will to fight for those children, even when it almost cost her her job, and the will to surrender to a higher power when needed. There's 4 great leadership lessons, according to the author Jeff Loftus, from this movie, from Maria von Trapp, from her actual life. She was and is, or was, a real person. And those 4 principles are summed up in the movie, How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria? She's a whirlwind of energy, good humor and music, but she perplexes and bewilders the older nuns. Now, far be it from me to attempt to solve a problem when a group of devout women couldn't find one. But instead, I can look at these 4 lessons, these 4 principles that Maria used. The first, courage of her convictions. She never wavered from her firmly held faith. That faith gave her the strength to pursue her life, believing that whatever came her way, something valuable was contained in that experience. There was something to be learned, something to be discovered. So courage of convictions. The next one is to always be open-minded. Oh, that's a tough one. To be open-minded. You know, there's a fine line between having the courage of your convictions and refusing to give up because you're delusional. We can have the courage of our convictions, but we also have to have an open mind. Because our convictions are there to evolve, to grow, to become even more than they have been. The quality that keeps a person on the right side of that courage of conviction is open-mindedness. And so the Mother Abbess sends her out into the world. And she's frightened and disappointed at first, but she's also open to possibility, open to the wisdom of others, and successfully incorporating their guidance, in this case the mother of the abbess, that guidance into her life. She's open to possibilities. The third one is optimistic. She's optimistic. You know, if you're not optimistic, it's all but impossible to be open-minded. You have to be optimistic to have that open mind. And Maria would have to be incredibly optimistic to get married to a guy with a choir-sized group of kids. By the way, they had 3 more later. And at a time when the Nazis were in the process of taking over their homeland, where they lived. She demonstrates bravery on a level most of us will never have to. In the movie, she escapes over the mountains with the kids and her husband running from the Nazis. But before they do that, they have to make a choice, Maria and the captain. They face the choice of giving in to the Nazi demands and keeping their world and their lifestyle intact. They had a very good life. They were very wealthy, very prosperous, very prominent in their community. And they could have just said, okay, we'll do whatever you say, and kept that. But instead, they refused to surrender, and they fled to, well, for 3 months across Europe. That's not in the movies, and then eventually made it to the U.S. Sooner or later, we all face a dark night of the soul, just like they did. And everyone wonders in those moments if it isn't time to give up. But what Maria's leadership style teaches us is that it's not time to surrender. That's the time, according to the song, you climb every mountain, ford every stream, follow every rainbow till you do what? Find your dream. And now, guys, would you show the clip? And I want you to notice Mother Superior, her attitude, her way of dealing with it. She too was willing. Her first concern was for Maria when she asked, did they mistreat you? In fact, the very first line she says, you are unhappy. I'm sorry. Not, you have to be happy, you're a nun. Or you have to be happy, you're doing the will of God. And then her next one was concern. Have you been mistreated? And then she says, there are other ways to serve God. Just because you're not a nun doesn't mean you are not serving God. That's an appropriate developed power of will. The Reverend Mother is using her will for the higher good. There's an earlier scene where the Baroness is using her will to try to get Maria fired, to try to put Maria in a bad light and get her to leave. And the beauty of the juxtaposition of those two scenes is that we get to see a beautifully developed power of will and a very manipulative power of will. We also see that this movie is set against the backdrop of World War II, and we can't help but notice the comparison of the consciousness and loving use of Maria's will and the exploitative and destructive use of the will of the Third Reich. Remember when we looked at the will of at the power of power with Harry Potter and Voldemort, and we saw the two different ways power is used. Will is the same way. Both can be used to build up or to destroy, to heal or to wound. Maria used the power of her will to protect and love her family. Years later, when she was interviewed, her friends and family described her as a very strong force, a strong-willed woman and a force of nature. And she said, yes, I am. But I am also in the flow of nature. I also am willing to do what Spirit tells me to do. I was very blessed when I was around 10 years old. Our family went to the Von Trapp Lodge in Stowe, Vermont. And Maria and all but Martina Gretel in the movie were still alive. And there were also 3 more children who were born to Maria and the captain after they immigrated to the United States. And the lodge is still there. It is still run by one of the sons and some of the grandkids. And it also nowadays includes a giant brewery and a cheese factory. But one of the things I learned is that Maria was not thrilled at all with the way the captain was portrayed in the movie, because she said that is not what he was like. He was actually a very kind man, a very compassionate man, and very dedicated to his children. And ask me after the service, and I'll tell you the real story about the whistle. It's kind of fascinating. The other thing you have to know is they did not escape by climbing up over the Alps. They escaped on a train to Italy. But it's much more dramatic to go over the Alps, and then you get to sing a song about mountains. But this movie, this story, their life, is an example of developing our will. So now we ask ourselves, where am I being called to develop my will? Am I being called to search my mind and my heart and align with my true nature, with my higher power? Am I being called to seek understanding, to seek love, to serve, to deepen my spiritual wisdom? In The Sound of Music Theology by Norman Allen, it's written, "The Sound of Music has been delighting audiences since its premiere over 50 years ago. The beauty of its cinematography, the feel-good music, the lyrics, and of course Julie Andrews' presence are memories we carry forward from our childhood. What people often miss, though, is the distinctly spiritual lesson of this movie. It turns out that you can build a theology around the sound of music. All music." The Mother Abbess quotes Psalm 121 when she encourages Marie and her new family in their escape over the Alps, saying, "Remember, I will lift up my eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help." Metaphysically, that means we lift our eyes up, we lift our consciousness up to a higher place, to the energy of the divine, and that is where our help, where our inspiration, where our wisdom comes from. The real theological lesson is in the arc of Maria's story. In the movie's opening scenes, where she feels her deep devotion and commitment to life, to all life, and to a nun's life. And she believes firmly in this calling, no matter how challenging it might prove. What you don't really necessarily pick up on unless you're paying attention is she has spent 3 years as a novice and hasn't made it to being a nun yet, partly because she is challenged by the rules. But the Mother Abbess sees her gifts. She sees the gifts in the failings of Maria, what other people would call failings. She sees them as potential maybe for something different. And that's okay. That's important. That's okay. Maria, there's a scene in Maria in the movie where she's praying at the end of her first day there, says, "Dear Father, now I know why you sent me here. You sent me here to help these children prepare for a new mother, little knowing that it was her." And when she realizes the depths of her feelings for the captain, it becomes scary, and she flees back to the monastery. And it's easy to forget that she too is going through a dark night of the soul. She enters a period of solitude that's just briefly kind of touched on in the movie. It says she's been cloistered in a room for a long time and only emerges from her cell when the Mother Abbess demands that she do so. And it is through the guidance of this wise older woman that she finally leaves the path of the spiritual ascetic and embraces her role as a teacher, as a parent, as a partner. Probably the most powerful line in this movie is when the Mother Abbess says to Maria, "You have to live the life you were born to live." Paul says the same thing in essence in 1 Corinthians. Now there are varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit. And there are varieties of services, but the same Lord. And there are varieties of activities, but it is the same God who activates all of them in everyone. And he goes on to list a whole range of gifts, noting that knowledge and wisdom are not the same. But they all have a place. And we all have different visions, different missions that we are called to do. That's the lesson that Maria learns through the course of the movie. Her gifts cannot be expressed cloistered within the abbey. She lives her faith best out in the world, sustaining her new family with unconditional love, and as the captain notes, bringing music back into their lives. There's something about Maria's journey and those alpine meadows and the knowing nuns that has inspired all of us in many ways that sacred texts can't always reach. That's the beauty of these stories, the beauty of these movies, these books, is that, let's be honest, the Bible and other sacred texts are pretty hard to read, aren't they? Because they're very old. They were written in a language we don't use, with idioms we don't use. We don't even understand what half of those things mean anymore because culture has changed. But the lessons still come out. They're constantly being presented to us through all different kinds of media and messages. There's a moment in that movie when Maria has returned to the villa, and then she walks back in, and the children see her. And the look of surprise in their faces, the look of joy, that's the moment when she fully steps into who she is, when she fully realizes the impact she has had on other people's lives that she could never have in the Abbey. Perhaps that moment, more than any other, captures why each generation finds new delight in this movie and why it's so important to us. I'm going to close by asking a question. Are you willing? Are you willing to embrace your gifts, to leave the safety of the Abbey, to consciously develop your power of will so that you can fully bring to the world the gifts that are yours to bring? To use your power of will to activate all your other powers and to make the biggest contribution to life that you can. Are you willing? All right.
Climb every mountain, search high and low, follow every byway, every path you know. Climb every mountain, ford every stream, follow every rainbow till you find your dream, a dream that will need all the love you can give every day of your life, for as long as you live. Climb every mountain, ford every stream, follow every rainbow till you find your dream, a dream that will need all the love you can give every day of your life, for as long as you live. Climb every mountain, ford every stream, follow every rainbow till you find
Bill Brooks, beautiful. Oh, I see some kids out there.
You are walking in the light of God. 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 You are walking, 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 walking in the light of God.
morning, Unity family. How are you today? Awesome. We have some kids, I think, that want to share some different things with you. All right, here's Genevieve.
So today we made a paper about 5 words we are. So mine says stylish, creative, kind, happy, and loving. And then we also painted rocks. We went outside and we're going to paint them. I'm going to make a strawberry. And we also played with Legos.
All right, it looks like we have somebody over here that wants to share. Rose and then Katie.
So today after church we're having an ice cream social. So it's going to be in the fellowship hall, and we're just taking love offerings, and that helps fund rallies. And we have one coming up in October, January, June, and July. So yeah, come visit.
So today's lesson, I wrote it at 2 a.m. obviously, was about connection and connecting with others. So for the first part and for the main part, we played a game where we would throw something about ourselves. The first round, we wrote what something we would want people to know about us was, and we put it in the bucket, and then we tried to guess who it was. And then the second round was we put down our favorite songs and bands, and then tried to guess who it was. And the second one was more fun, and there was a lot more guesses. And go to the ice cream social. It's in the fellowship hall. Woohoo!
Thank you.
So yeah, Alex and Katie, we want to give out a shout out to them because they made this lesson all on their own, and Barbara did absolutely no changes to it. All Katie and Alex. Alex is hiding right there. But yeah, he helped. But it was a really good lesson. It showed that we were guessing about each other, and that when you get to know someone, it makes things a lot more fun. So we got to guess really easily, and it was so fun. And then at the end we shared memories of us at church, and it made us really connect about fun memories we had that really inspired us. So great lesson, Alex and Katie.
Awesome. Does anybody else want to share? Okay. So like they said, go get some ice cream after church. It'll be lots of fun. Would you please join me in blessing these wonderful children?
Song. We've been talking about being willing today. And Amanda has answered the call of being willing for many, many years for our children. I'm going to try not to cry. When I came back in 2021, she had wanted to retire in 2020, but the pandemic hit, and she was so willing to serve our children that she hung in there through the pandemic. And then when I came back in 2021, she said, well, I really need to retire. My parents need me. My kids are growing, things like that. And she said, but I'll work with you for a year and help you get the program up and running. It's 2024. She is finally going to retire. Yes. And Amanda, we have been so blessed, and we'll be honoring you between now and September, the end of September, when her last day will be. But I just want you all to know what a gift she has been to us here at Unity for, many, many years, and to so many children, my own daughter and my grandson now, and so many others. So I would like now to bless Amanda like we do our children. Amanda, you are a perfect child of God, and God and I love you just the way you are. Yes. And so now we will say our prayer for protection, sing our peace song, and go get ice cream. Oh, prayer protection. You guys ready? The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is. Woo-wee!